10 seconds of grimness. All right, let's do it, guys. G'day once again. Welcome to the Tripod. Today we're going to be breaking down or recapping round 12 in the NRL. Very good round. Once again, going 15-6 on best bet. Certainly doesn't feel that way after watching a diabolical game, maybe the worst game I've ever seen in the NRL this year. But first things first, make sure you're in our group, Tripod Punters Tips Forum. There's a link in the description to this video. And make sure you're in the Tripod app. If you're in there, you will have been riding our French Open multis as well. We've given out 5 of them. We've already cashed one at over $5 odds. And we're 10 legs down of a 12-leg multi that is paying over $28. It just needs Fed and Nadal to win tonight. So I know a bunch of the boys are on that. And at over $28 odds, that's going to be a very, very profitable French Open for us. Jacob, how are you, buddy?
That is one exciting thing. You've got to, if you take a step back, it's a cracking month of sport.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah, and we've got State of Origin coming up, which we'll touch on. Let's just let people know, Tuesday night, 6 p.m, we've set, and that will be State of Origin Game 1 preview as well, so just 2 nights. And then we'll push back Round 13 preview, because no one cares about Round 13 until they've seen Origin. So Obviously we're not going to try and clash Wednesday night, so that's going to be Thursday once we know the information about who gets through the game. So you've got a few pods coming up, but on your French Open multi, if people don't know, he might not look like it, but this guy used to have a world ranking in tennis, and we obviously have always had a keen eye for the punt, and Alex watches the tennis pretty closely, and you've been killing it with your multis. As you said, already cashed one over $5, and we will cash one at 28-1.
You've just jinxed it.
Tonight. Well, mate, honestly, usually I don't jinx things. I watched that whole Titans game. Should we start there? Because I don't know if to laugh or cry or be physically sick. But the Titans game, which we actually...
you've done all 3 already, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, you can set the stage if you want.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what we just watched was the Cowboys beating the Titans 6-4. Didn't know if I wanted to throw up in my mouth or fucking shit in my hands and clap. One of the worst games that I've seen in the entire season. Absolutely diabolical. We were on the Titans, but despite them losing by 2 points, we still go 3 out of 5 on our bets. 3 wins, 2 losses. So 60% on the game, which is actually great. As you can see, if you can win 60% on bets, then you're doing very, very well. But fuck me, the Titans, with Cowboys missing players, you are at home and you put up just the most steaming pile of shit performance that I've ever seen. They look so clunky in offense. And even then, they're 6-4 down. You have not 1, but 2 shots at goal. Not only that, you switch kickers in between. You miss them both pretty badly, let's be fair. And then despite all that, despite playing absolutely horrendously the entire game, you have multiple chances at the end and even a golden opportunity right at the end. And Bryce Cartwright just does a shitty pass, which he is the shittest player in the NRL. And all he needed to do was throw a half-decent, solid pass. But no, he floats it up, it's behind him, and he just doesn't get the ball to ground. Absolutely diabolical performance by the Titans. But now, the Cowboys, despite being a pretty average team, have won now 5 of their last 7 games, and they've got to be feeling very, very good about themselves. A gritty performance, to be honest. And can I also just add, really, how long are we going to fucking give players to put the ball down when they're over the line? Are we going to give Taumalo 30 seconds to put the ball down? How long do you want to fucking hold this guy up? He weighs 200 kilos, he's strong as an ox. You want to fucking hold him up for 30 seconds? That is diabolical. Anyway, continue.
Honestly, it's funny. You could write You could write War and Peace on what happened in that game, because it was diabolical from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, one of the many things that was just absolutely fucked in that game was the one try. The only points the Cowboys scored in the whole game was very questionable, where I never saw the ball get planted down. Perinara's got X-ray vision. He apparently saw it after Tamalolo's just flopping around like bloody I do on a Friday night if I get lucky. And somehow they give that a try. But never mind that, the first half, the Titans, how many clean line breaks did they make? How many times did they mount pressure? They get through, they just could not take any chances, apart from, luckily I suppose, for us, Dale Copley scored. We rarely give out any time try scorer as a best bet, but we did. And to change pace, we did go 3 out of 5 best bets. And if people are thinking, 60%, that's all right, but could you really make a lot of money? I mean, think about this. If you just placed $5,000 bets every weekend and you won 3 of them every weekend, your 2 winners, your 2 losers kind of cancel out. You'd be down a couple $100 just because you're winning, at $1.90. and then that fifth winner is like your profit margin every single round. You'd be making, short of $1,000 a week. So you can clean up if you can hit 60%. But we're far from happy. The Titans, as you say, like, it reminds you of the classic Bulldogs days where they're ultra conservative. Let's pop it to a front rower to run the ball on the goal line on the third, on the fourth. Let's dummy and go ourselves from dummy half. And when this so wasteful,
scrubbers, just like terrible fit tackle options.
So they're playing ultra conservative. They still managed to have completely useless unforced errors early in the second half, which led to the Cowboys try. But yeah, it's like Ash Taylor conversion, misses the goal by 30 metres, penalty to tie the game, missed by 20 metres. Then Roberts, who's injured, takes the next conversion because Ash Taylor wants to be paid $1 million but doesn't have the fucking nuts to have the shot at goal to tie the game, but he's a halfback meant to be clutch. And after all that, the Titans, the P-Heart Titans, who have played the game perfectly into the Cowboys' hands because the Cowboys have no attack. The Cowboys have a good forward pack. Cowboys love to get in a grind, and Cowboys can defend. Like, if we're going to give some credit, we'll give some credit where it's due. So the Titans play perfectly into their hand by just playing it in the middle of the field. Well, Peachy plays an all or nothing, kick for himself, gets it, rolls through a tackle, swings it out, 3-on-1 with like 20 seconds left, and they're down 2.
Yep.
It's a try. But Cartwright, he could honestly have fallen over the line, but decides to throw a terrible floating pass to Kelly. And even then, Kelly could have just grounded the ball. But you just knew it was just that final moment just to torture us that little bit more. And so, I mean, we won the first half bet. We had the Titans to win the first half. We won Copley to score a try. And we actually won Cowboys to not score, 4 or more tries. And we won them all quite comfortably. But we had Titans -1.5. We had Titans in a couple multis as well.
Bryce Cartwright is the worst player in the NRL. Not only that final play before we move on to the next game, but there was earlier on, like 5 minutes before that. You've frozen, Jacob. I don't know what's going on there. 5 minutes before that, it was absolutely diabolical. He gets fucking in a tackle with like 3 dudes all over him, just flicks out a blind pass to absolutely no one, and I'm not sure where that goes. Jacob, where are you, mate? Are you there?
Can you? I can see I'm frozen, but can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You might have to deal with that. And poor old Cartwright, it looks like he's about to doze off when he's playing. He dead set when they're standing him up in the tackle. It looks like he may just nod off. That's how much he fucking wants it. And I haven't listened to the press conference. I do like listening to the press conferences. If fucking Garth Brennan has the nerve to fucking say, I'm happy with our completion rate and I'm happy with our defence, we only conceded 6.
90% when you're doing fuck all.
Yeah, I mean, for God's sake, they had set after set on the Cowboys line and they think the answer is pop it to Jared Wallace because he's a bit upset he didn't get picked for Queensland. So, or let's just hold it for 5 and then let's bomb on the last and maybe it'll bounce our way. But anyway, we could fucking rant about that game all we want, but
true.
That those games do happen and they're more painful. I'd rather fucking lose 50-0 and lose every bet than win 3 out of 2 and have to watch that abomination.
Yeah, that was one of the worst games that we've watched all season. Let's move on. Let's go back to Thursday night where we had the Panthers beating Manly 15-12. We loved the Panthers in this spot, had 6 bets on the game, went 5-1. Trying not to spend as much time on this game, but just thought that the Panthers would be too good in this one. They were at home. Manly missing Jake Trbojevic, obviously the Panthers missing Cleary, but we saw what the Panthers did, without Maloney, with Cleary, and then figured there'd be a relatively similar team this time around. And to be honest with you, the Panthers dominated that game. They're up 15-0 fairly late. Manly didn't have a sniff, and I mean, without Jake Trbojevic, without Cherry, without Tommy Turbo, we've mentioned this numerous times that Manly just lacks that power in attack, and we kind of saw that. I know that they scored 2 late tries, but really, that game, the Panthers just were all over them for about 70 minutes until they let in those late 2. So the score doesn't really reflect how much of a domination that was by the Panthers. And
unfortunately, those 2 late tries by Manly stopped us sweeping the game.
Indeed,
I think we had 6 best bets on the game, and we won 5 out of 6.
Yep.
And Penrith caught Manly at a great time. You talked about the guys that were out, and yes, there were players out for Penrith too, but they still have a few, good players. They've got better depth too. They've always had a very strong reserve grade. So this bloke like Naden comes in to the centres and looked like a true first grader. And Maloney, if he played a shit game there, I honestly reckon that the pathway for the Panthers would have been to try and ask him to leave and proceed with Cleary and Luai in the halves. So Maloney had to step up and he did. And the Panthers, you can say they've just been able to get their season maybe back on track with 2 gritty wins against, opponents that didn't play well. But the jury's still out. We'll see how they go.
Yes, indeed. And then Friday we had the Eels beating a depleted Rabbitohs side 26-14. Had 4 bets on the game and we did sweep. Obviously, you'll see the first bet there we had was Eels just to win the game was $1.91, and that was still up there after the Origin teams were announced. And obviously, we kind of knew that like Damien Cook would be in there, but some of the other rabbits like Cam Murray and stuff, people didn't really know would be in there. Even Cody Walker and stuff. So those lines should have changed almost immediately, but they didn't. So we snapped up that one early, and that game closed I think 4.5. Eels 5.5, 4.5 favourite. So we certainly got a good line there, but it was a bit of a domination once again. I think, I guess the score indicates that it was relatively a domination, but I mean, they were up, 20 points to 0, and the Eels were just too good. And don't take too much away from the Rabbits here. I mean, they were missing, obviously 4 of their best players. Was it 4? I think so.
4 in Origin, plus Alex Johnston.
Yeah, true.
And a few others that have dropped off through the year. Obviously, like GI and Braden Burns, James Roberts will come back into this side. So
yes.
They were down quite a lot of players. And I said on Wednesday that if the Bunnies were to win that game, that would be their most impressive win this season because they were up against it. And the Eels had to win. But it does go to show, and we've done really well. And historically, we do very well betting on the rounds in between Origin because it's hard for the betting market to adjust and to figure out how much these players are worth. And we usually talk about how no one player is worth that much. But this was a classic case of cluster, outs, not injuries, but cluster losses to key positions. And it showed. And we were, very happy to snap up the Eels at $1.91 on Monday last week. And we would have grabbed more players, but it's just the bookies didn't have very many markets available at that time. We even grabbed a few more when the line had moved to like 2.5 and, team totals and stuff, and we swept 4-0.
Yes, indeed. And then yesterday we had the Raiders beating the Bulldogs 12 points to 10. We did have 6 plays on the game, and we do go 3-3. To be honest with you, another one of those games that was like, I guess we were kind of lucky to go 3-3 after the Raiders were up 10-0. But then once it's 10-all and the Bulldogs fucking are just like, well, coming over the top of them, I'm going to say it. But they were dead for 50 minutes. The Bulldogs did fuck all for 55 minutes. Then they score quickly after, and they look like a completely different team for a span of about 15 minutes there when they scored those 2 tries. And they looked way better. The Raiders looked tired. And I'll tell you what, this is what I've been saying about this Bulldogs team for years. They grind, they can't chase points, but once they get like tied or they get a lead, they go back into their shell, play the shitty conservative footy, and that's not what's going to win you football games. And it showed here. They were playing like expansive footy trying to chase points when they were 10-0 down. Then once they got to 10-all, they got conservative again, let the Raiders get back into it. Raiders got momentum, give away a shitty pen, and then it's all over. But yeah, once again, I mean, people are kind of saying, fuck the Dogs, never betting on the Dogs again. I understand that they're a shit team. But the Raiders were missing players. They were not at full strength. And when we put these bets out, Bateman was still like, I guess we kind of thought he'd be, 50-50, maybe even a little bit more. But of course, not only does he play, he is by far the Raiders' best player on the field.
I'm sorry, I know this is a little bit trickier for you because I'm just frozen, so you can hear me, but you can't see me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see
you. When we put these bets on Monday, because we deliberately went early, because we knew the Origin selections, we knew Whiten was picked, we knew Kotrick would pick, like there was no certainty they were going to be at the team.
Correct.
People, obviously Hodgson broke the thumb, so the markets maybe hadn't all adjusted. We thought we were getting a bargain with the Dogs plus 2.5.
Yep.
Bateman had a fractured cheek 3 weeks earlier, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. It was meant to be out 6 to 8. Last thing I fucking saw was he's over in England on Instagram. He's dead. We did not think he was 50-50. We had no reason to believe Bateman was going to be back. So we really liked these Dogs.
Not on Monday,
then on
Wednesday,
Tuesdays, yes. On Tuesday he gets named in the reserves. And at that point I'm like, he's probably back. And yeah, we still...
It's like one of the fastest recoveries from a fractured cheekbone in NRL history
and he's tough as nails, and not only does he play, he plays 80, he scores with the winning try, and every touch is quality, and I don't want to harp on Bateman because everyone sees it. Like, we were onto it earlier of like, this guy is a stud. But I watched the press conference with Ricky Stewart. The first 3 questions were just like, how good's it having Bateman back in your side? Like, just basically the same question 3 times. Everyone can see what a difference maker he is.
100%.
And even after all that, as you say, went 3-3. Like, we did still cover the +2.5. So it does show the advantage of getting that early line, because the Bulldogs closed a slight favourite. But on your point, there are some teams you almost wish that they're a big underdog because they play better when there's no expectation. And the Dogs are in that category. The Titans, again, were favourites today. I hate to get back to them, but some teams don't know how to win, and they don't have that will to win.
True.
And the Raiders, good gutsy win by them. Don't dismiss that and say it was only the Dogs. Raiders still have quite a few personnel out. We didn't expect it would be an easy win by the Dogs. It just felt like they could make it a 50-50, and we were getting them in a lot of underdog markets. But the Raiders, you've got to give them a lot of credit because they were tough. They didn't give the Dogs anything easy. But if you watch the game, the amount of opportunities the Bulldogs had, they should have won. They should have won it. But it just goes to show, and Dean Pay's got all the same excuses that, we're young and stuff. To an extent, he's true. He's limited with the squad he has, but it was pretty piss-poor effort.
That's true. And at the end of the day, like, even when you say, like, the Raiders missing blokes playing well, at the end of the day, most of it is coaching. I understand that the players still have to put in. But, I mean, you look at, like, those Storm teams of old when they used to lose, like, 6 dudes to Origin, and they would still win during that Origin period, and they would play very well. Like, the backup halves would play fucking well. And it is, like, mostly coaching, I think, and just having your troops up for it. Because, like,
that is a great point, because the Storm, they had series where they had 6 in Origin, and then they had, like, the week after Origin, and they just said, like, we're in for the long haul, we're going to rest all 6. And they played games, and the betting markets, made them massive underdogs.
Yep.
And they came out and barely missed a beat. And then you watch coaches make excuses. We've had an injury in the halves. We haven't had a lot of continuity. These guys haven't played a lot of games. But hang on, I've watched sides like the Melbourne Storm and even like Roosters play without their Origin players. And, even the Bunnies have had a lot of rep players. And they're not the ones that are making all the tackles. There's still, toughness, and you can still execute. You don't have to try and find excuses. So, I don't know. I am bitter, mostly because of the game today. But last night was, disappointing too.
Imagine if you were a Titans supporter and you paid $30 to $40 for a ticket to go and sit in the cold and watch that fucking diabolical game for 80 minutes.
I've heard this chestnut before, but honestly, watching it, I was like, they should fucking refund every person there. That makes it even worse that it was a home game.
Oh, because so bad.
They are putrid. And honestly, mate, just wrap it up. Tell people when they're going to hear us again and where they can find us. Because if you keep this live, I'm just going to keep slagging the Titans. I'm fucking so angry, and they're dead to me.
If you neck
until
yourself,
next week when we bet on them again.
If you neck yourself, we're not going to see it because it's you're frozen. But let's wrap it up for this week, guys. As you can see on the screen right now, if you do want to get all our best bets and that kind of thing, certainly download the Tripod app. Just search it in the App Store or in Google Play. And make sure you're in our group. We are going to be cheering home Nadal and Fed tonight for that $28 French Open multi. I posted another one for tonight's games and tomorrow's games in the Tripod app as well. I think that one's paying about $10, I think. Getting less and less games now, so obviously a bit harder to choose. But we're going to be here on Tuesday night at 6 p.m. To break down State of Origin. We are also going to be there, so feel free, if you see us, to stop by and have a beer. We'll probably be there a couple of hours beforehand. Down on Caxton Street. So 6 p.m. On this page to break down State of Origin Game 1, and then 6 p.m. on Thursday to break down Round 13. We will see you guys then. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, lads.